the fintech ecosystem, or financial ecosystem rather, I call it, has grown multiple folds in the past 10 years. What has been that one or maybe two growth points where you see ki, yeah, this has actually transformed India in a much bigger way, and what do you see coming in the coming years?
Just obviously UPI is one such moment. Account aggregator hopefully will be that next moment.
Say if I take you back in a time machine 30 years from now, 30 years backwards from now, in the same scenario that we have today, the kind of ecosystem that we have today in the same scenario, what would be like a couple of business idea that comes to you and you would like to, nurture that and work on it?
Fraud is one area that I would definitely like to work. Then the whole embedded finance is an excellent area. And same thing with PFM, that's closer to my heart. So definitely these three are more than enough for me.
So if there's a first-time entrepreneur, right, what would you like to tell them? Like, what is the grind they go through to build something this big?
Okay. There are multiple things. One is the need to pivot. I mean, in the sense you start off with some idea.
Yeah.
Very rarely someone kind of start with that idea, execute that idea, take it big. Very rarely that happens. Most of the time what will happen is you start with something and then you find something else in the market related to this. Obviously, it cannot be something completely different, something that is adjacent to it, related to it. And you should be agile enough to kind of pivot to that. And then say, this seems to be a lot more marketable than what I started out with.
So the startup ecosystem in India has seen such a big boom, right? In the last couple of years, I've met so many of people who are working, want to start their own companies. But the questions around it remain the same, like kaise start kare, where do we go with it, how do we build a product, what is the idea, will it work in the market or not, like 1,000 different questions. So why not ask an expert who has actually started multiple companies, in fact, and gotten it to a level where you and I would just be, idealizing it. So Govindrajan, and as we call Govi very fondly, he's here with us, and it's a pleasure to have a conversation with you, sir. So just to begin with, right, where did this instinct in you start to become an entrepreneur? How did that begin?
So to be frank, so I was in the US. I went to school there. I was working there, but I always wanted to come back. This was early 90s, much before most of the people who are watching this would have even been born.
Yeah.
And so at that time, as all of you know, there were not too many opportunities for me. If you had come back and started working for some companies, there were not enough opportunities at all.
You mean in the business area or in?
No, I was a technology. I still continue to be a technologist, or I pretend to be a technologist, as my colleagues say. So since I decided to come back because of my family situation and all that stuff, and there were not too many opportunities, I thought, why don't I just take a plunge into the business? It's not like I come from a business family. My father was a school teacher and a first generation entrepreneur. I said, let's just give it a shot. What is the worst that can happen? It may not go anywhere. And I'll go back to US for my work or whatever it is. I had my green card or all that stuff. So that's how I started. I did a startup in Chennai. Did not go anywhere. 1 year. Tried building a product company.
What was it about?
People will laugh if I say that. So we were trying to build a database system that could replace Oracle.
Wow. Okay.
So obviously that did not go anywhere. Then after that, my second venture was a company called Aztec Software. There also we tried building a product company with my current cofounder, Debash Chakrabarti, or DCHAG we call it. We built what is today called as an app server. Maybe one of the very, very first app server built in the world. These are products like WebLogic, WebSphere, and all of that stuff. This was built much before any of those products, sitting in Bangalore.
Okay.
With the earliest version of Java. And DCHAG was the architect. But there again, we found it very difficult to take it to the market because we were not funded. We were sitting in Bangalore, trying to sell an enterprise class product to customers in the US without any funding. This was the worst possible combination. And after a couple of years of struggle, we realized that we are not going anywhere. We could have built a lifestyle business, but the idea was to build a large-scale business. So that's when we said we are not able to sell. We don't have the marketing and sales kind of a gene in us. So let's go and do the next best thing, which is today called outsourced product development, OPD. We were the pioneers in starting OPD. So what we did was, instead of building product and owning the IP, we said, let's build product for other product companies. These are product companies like Microsoft or Oracle or IBM or companies like that, where we were sitting in Bangalore building key parts of their product. And we were getting paid. So today it is called OPD, and we were the pioneers, and that grew very, very well. We grew the company and then got listed in India in 2000. ran it as a public company. And then after about 7-8 years, we sold the company to Mindtree, another public company. And that's when we decided to start Perfios.
We struggled to get one good idea. How did you come up with so many ideas and then execute it? I mean, that is commendable. So when your first idea stuck, what was it that gave you conviction ki yes, this can become big?
Okay. So let me take Perfios as an example, right? So one thing to, you would have already realized that when you start with something, it's very unlikely that you will go down the path with that same idea. It has to flip. It has to change. It's not because that idea was bad or whatever. Maybe the timing was too early, timing was wrong. All kinds of things can happen. But are you dynamic enough? Are you agile enough to change and then flip and do something, right?
So you mean you start with a seed idea and then it nurtures into something else and then you have to be able to pivot to that particular.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if I take Perfios as an example,
Yeah.
right? So when we started Perfios after our Aztec reasonable successful exit, we said we were not successful personally because we could not build a product company in Aztec. The goal was to build a product company, but we were not able to build it. It was kind of more of an OPD kind of a company or a services company. So both Dichak and I were very clear when we started Perfios that it has to be a product company. We are not going to dilute that because we were not able to succeed earlier. So when we started, we had a one-line vision or a mission statement, as you call it. And I'm glad to say that we never had to deviate from that. The idea was, can Perfios be basically a technology-driven product company in chosen domains and chosen geographies? It has to be technology-driven because we come from a technology background, hardcore technology background.
Right.
It has to be a product company because that was our intention. And we said it cannot be a horizontal product company because we were very clear that there are smarter people than us in the world. If you build a horizontal product platform, there will be another person who will build a much better platform 1 year down the road and we become obsolete. So can we build a platform that is very specific for a domain so that the stickiness increases instead of it being a horizontal platform? And then in specific geography, we said we will choose personal finance as our first domain. The reason for that was both me and Dichak had some money to manage after the Aztec exit. And there were no tools available. Even today, there are no tools available.
To manage the money you've made.
Exactly.
Okay.
Personal finance aggregation platform. So we said, let's choose personal finance as a domain. And then we said India, obviously, because we understand the space and we are closer to the market. So that's how we started building the Perfios initial product, which was like essentially a data aggregation platform that could aggregate any kind of personal data and manage your personal finance for any individual like you and me. Right. And it was technology based. It was a product company.
Right.
It was always based on cloud and a SaaS kind of a model in a freemium model. And then it was specifically for India and a vertical domain. That is how it started. And the goal was like we will build this like a freemium model product. And then
freemium.
Okay. So basically you put it on the cloud and give it as a free version for people to use it. The idea is to attract people to start using it. And then there will be a value-added services on top of it for which people pay for it. So it is a free version and then there is a premium version on top of it. Together it is called as a freemium model.
Got it.
And that's how we started. So we said the base version is free. There are some value-added services like income tax filing and all that on top of it. You pay for it. Some 500 rupees or some such thing. And that's how we rolled it out. Building it was the easiest part because both me and Dichak come from a technology background. Building it was the easiest. But then taking it to the market as a B2C kind of a product was the biggest problem and a challenge.
And so how many people did you start this with and how? So most of the challenge that people face today is that I have an idea, but I don't know who to gather around to work with. Like how do I find my co-founder? How do I also find the person who's going to manage the product or build the product for me? In your case, I agree you were from the tech background, so you could build it. But how did you make your first sale? How did that benchmark cross?
Okay. So this is a very, very good question because personally I feel it's better to work with a co-founder.
Okay.
Doing solo is very, very difficult because entrepreneurship is something you don't normally wish even to the worst of the enemy because you go through a roller coaster ride multiple times a day. It's not even once a day, multiple times a day. And you need definitely somebody to lean on because the hope is like if you are in a down phase, hopefully that other person will be feeling better and together you can still move forward, right? So it's important to work with a co-founder and preferably complementary technologies. So if you're a tech person, the other person is business oriented, it kind of makes sense. Fortunately or unfortunately, in my case, I've been working with Dichak for the last 30 plus years. Both of us come from a technology background. But what I have done as a result is he continues to be a technology person. I pretend to be a technologist. I've taken all the front end roles, working with customers and business model and all of that stuff.
So that's how you could roll this out. But again, what was the most difficult thing for you in your mind to scale this? Like, if it's a freemium, you need multiple users to come on and use the product, right? So how did that growth happen and where did you reach from there?
Okay. Actually, that's an interesting point. There is a famous quote in a freemium model. That quote goes like this. If you want to make millions in freemium, you have to spend billions.
Okay.
And we went through it and learned it in a very hard way. Because what was happening was we built a product and we were very clear this is a fantastic product. And I would say even today there are no functionality comparable product in the market today for that, right? But what was difficult was monetizing it. Because no one wants to pay for anything on the internet thanks to Google. Everyone thinks that it's free.
Yeah.
Right? They don't realize they are the product for Google. But unfortunately, the reality is we could not really get money. And in the freemium model, our conversion rate was about 3 to 4%, which means that out of 100 people, only 3 or 4 were paying. That's for free users, right? Again, we could have run it like a lifestyle business, but it was not enough for us because having taken the earlier company public, goal here was to build a very large global brand. And we were not settling down for a lifestyle kind of a business. So we said this is not going anywhere. We tried multiple iterations, working with banks, working with financial advisors, chartered accountants. Everywhere it was the same. We could make some money, but it was not enough to build it like a larger brand. So that was a big challenge. How do you make the B2C thing work? That's when we realized that maybe we don't have the B2C DNA. We don't have that because it's a very, very different thing. It has nothing to do with technology.
But at that point, did you think, say you said, to make millions, you have to spend billions. So didn't you think to get an investor and then probably put in money and then make more money around, say, still make it a big global brand?
Sure. See, the thing was, one, we thought either we were not capable of doing that, of raising billions and all that.
Okay.
Or more, on a serious note, we were not interested going down the path. Because again, coming from a technology background, our goal was, can I leverage technology to build a large brand? Not leverage money to build a large brand.
Okay.
Right? So we were very clear that we cannot go down that path. Either we are not capable or we are not interested in going down that path. And we have built this wonderful platform. Or so we thought at the time, and I continue to believe we built that platform. And can I leverage that platform to build this bigger company? That was the idea. And we tried multiple iterations. If I had been the first generation entrepreneur at that time, I would have shut the shop and walked away because we would not have had the money. But fortunately, since we had some reasonable exits from our prior venture, we had enough financial security. And as a result, we were able to kind of try this multiple iterations, repositioning and all of that stuff. But it was a very tough period. Like you asked about the number of people who were and all that. It was largely people that I knew from before who joined us. And most of them took serious pay cuts. Like it will be like 1/10 or 1/15 of what they were getting. And they trusted us, me and Dichak, and joined us. And both me and Dichak also never took salary for the first 8 years in the company. And we said till the company kind of reaches a profitability state, we should not take any money out of the company. And most of the initial people who joined me had the same trust. I mean, they took some salary because they had to run the family. And but otherwise, they took serious pay cuts and they were working on it. And I have to really thank them because, put yourself in their shoe. They come to office, they're working on something. They don't know whether anything will happen or not.
Exactly.
There are no customers. They continue to build something. And whether they'll see light at the end of the tunnel or not is not clear. Even if they see a light, many times it was the light of an oncoming train. It was not like we were actually seeing a train, seeing the actual light, right? So in all those situations, they still had the trust. And they continue to work, slog it out, and all of that stuff. And I'm glad finally everything worked out for them.
So you said pivoting is absolutely important at a time when you realize that, this is not going to go beyond a particular point. So how did that idea come for you to, I think the next product that you made was BSA, bank statement analysis, right? So how did you shift from Perfios personal finance manager to BSA?
So I won't call it the next product because the product is still the same. It is the same technology data aggregation platform that had the ability to kind of aggregate multiple data sources and then on top of it build analysis. The first analysis we built was for personal finance, your capital gains, income tax, all that. BSA is nothing but an analysis for credit management, credit underwriting. So the underlying platform was still the same. It's not like we had to pivot and go and build something different.
Okay.
We had to basically do a different vertical. That's all. In addition to PFM, now we built a different vertical, which is lending. So about 2-3 years into the journey, when we realized that the B2C is not giving us enough money, that's when we said we don't have a choice but to look for something else.
Okay.
And at that time, we said, why don't we look at a B2B, because we have done B2B in our earlier company also, selling to larger enterprises. So maybe we should go and sell to B2Bs, and but leverage the same platform instead of trying to do something completely from scratch. And again, the same focus. It has to be a product company driven by technology. That cannot be compromised. And since we had already built the platform, we said, let's leverage the same platform and go and sell to B2B. And since we had done personal finance, we thought, let's kind of continue to stick to financial services. So let's go after NBFCs or banks, FINtech, all of these kind of companies, and see what we can do. So we chose lending as our first domain that we want to go after.
Again, this was a thought-through decision, or did it come to you with the market research or something that you had done in the past?
So fortunately, we did not have enough money to do market research. So it was all a gut feel.
Really?
Largely a gut feel, saying, it's not like Dichak and I had enough financial services background. I keep telling, before starting Perfios, the only financial services experience I had was opening up a couple of savings bank up. Nothing more than that. Both of us come from a very strong technology background. And in many cases, I feel that helped us, I think, because if I had known the financial services, or if I'm from the banking industry, maybe I would not have attempted to do this. I would have said, this is too crazy and we should not do this. Many times ignorance is bliss, and I think it's one of those times. Right. And so we said, why don't we look at lending? Some of us have gone through a lending process. It's very cumbersome, painful, multiple iterations. All of us have seen that.
Yeah.
So we said, why don't we look at this platform? And then there was also the time in India, there was this digital data explosion. The Jam Trinity was happening. There was this Jan Dhan Yojana account being opened, the Aadhaar movement, the mobility movement. So a lot of digital data was getting generated. And then the bank statements, the net banking, and all of that was also happening.
Right.
So we said all these alternate data sources are there. And at that time, or even today, to a large extent, the credit is still done using bureau data.
Right.
And the bureau data does not have all of this data. Bureau data, say at the end of it, what does a lender look for? The lender is saying, is a borrower has the capability to repay,
Yes.
The stability to repay, meaning is it seasonal business or regular business, and a willingness to repay. Now, the willingness to repay is largely addressed by bureau, because they will say if you have repaid, not repaid, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't have information about your capability to repay or stability to repay. So we said, with all these alternate data sources, going through a bank statement, going through your utility bills, going through your other mobility, your Airtel bills, or whatever it is, I can figure out what is your capability, what is your recurring income, recurring expenses that are not even reported in bureau. So we said we will take all these alternate data sources, and then based on this, I'll generate a credit memo for you. So that the underwriter can immediately figure out whether, and all in real time. It's not like I have to go through it through a team of people.
That was a revolution in that time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So no one was doing it. Yeah. So we said, this looks like interesting. Anyway, we have the platform that can aggregate all this data. So what we did was, I told Dichak, I still have that Word document where I said, this how the report can look like. And then Dichak, first version of BSA. And then Dichak built it in 2 weeks. He had that entire version available. And then we went after all the banks and NBFCs. Obviously, it was not an easy sell.
But from the idea generation till the execution, how long did it take?
If you say execution is adoption by a single customer, it was easily 12 to 18 months. Because we had the POC, we had initial report, all that stuff that I could go and show to interested bankers and NBFCs. But since we are not from that industry, it's not like we knew a lot of people.
Okay.
So getting access itself was painful. But even if we get access, people used to say, oh, this looks interesting, but this is not a pain point for me now. Because these were the times when the banks had enough customer. It's not like people were switching payment banks, small banks. All those options were not there. So they said, I have captive set of customers. These are not interesting things for me. Nice to have, but nice knowing you. So it was not easy sell at all, right? And so about 12 to 18 months, we struggled going and pitching to all the people. And while we were still running PFM, getting some revenue out of that PFM solution that we were running. And finally, two large one NBFC and one large bank. They're two of the most progressive even today in terms of adopting technology. They tried it out and it worked out well. And then fortunately in this industry, like any other industry, word of mouth definitely helps. And since they had positive experience, then they said others also started looking at it.
So if there's a first-time entrepreneur, right, what would you like to tell them? Like, what is the grind they go through to build something this big?
Okay. There are multiple things. One is the need to pivot. I mean, in the sense you start off with some idea.
Yeah.
Very rarely someone kind of start with that idea, execute that idea, take it big. Very rarely that happens. Most of the time what will happen is you start with something and then you find something else in the market related to this. Obviously, it cannot be something completely different, something that is adjacent to it, related to it. And you should be agile enough to kind of pivot to that. And then say, this seems to be a lot more marketable than what I started out with.
But Govi, there's such plethora of ideas. Like you think of something and you know that 10 versions of it exist in the market. How do you even, give yourself that courage to go ahead and say, yes, let me just try it once. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then I can take another route. So what are the things they need to have as a backup? Like you said, you already had a successful company. You had some funds to, put you through the grind for 8 years that you put yourself through. But for a first-time entrepreneur, what is it that they need to have as a backup so that even if they fall, they know that there's a, cushion built?
See, there are two completely different options there, right?
Okay.
One is, if you want to be an entrepreneur that is just wanting to execute your idea, then any kind of option will dilute that. For example, in my earlier company, I was telling, I started out with the product vision. I said, that's not going anywhere. Let me fall back into this services mode. That's a relatively easier option to fall back upon. And once you get into that mode, it's very tough to come back to the product mode because you don't want to leave that easy business. And we were trying for some time, but that is like riding two ponies at the same time. You just cannot do product and services at the same time. Okay. So the moment you look at a fallback option, unfortunately, what will happen is the reality is you will always fall back to that option because that is easier. Whereas if you don't have an option, very likely you will push till the very end. And then the worst case is like you have to shut the shop and then move on. Either go back to your corporate job or go back to one more attempt with another founder or whatever it is. So it is up to the individual. Whether that individual wants to really give it all the way up to the end and then shut the shop. Or if you are looking for a fallback option, my only fear there is you will always choose that fallback option even before you have tried hard enough.
But today, like for example, if I have an idea, right, I also have these group of angel investors, incubators and other investors who are ready to come on board, give me an initial funding and I can probably test it out whether my idea works or not. This way, I think building an idea and executing it has become much easier. Do you suggest people go that path or do you think they should always bootstrap themselves until...
This is varies from individual to individual. My personal belief is more money at the beginning is actually bad. Ideally, you should kind of bootstrap completely. Bootstrap meaning need not be from your fund. It could be friends and family or somebody that you associate with or a co-founder or whatever it is, right? Not from institutional investors or formal funds. That the moment you get formal investors, then there'll be this pressure to deliver. The pressure to deliver could be in terms of new products, new ideas, return on investment, all that stuff will happen. Whereas if you're on your own, at least you will have the freedom to experiment, to pivot, to try multiple things before you either call it quits or you hopefully go to the next level, right? Whereas the moment you take money from outside, then all that freedom is gone. So that's why, at least my personal belief is you should work within constraints, at least initially, till you reach certain level. Only when you are convinced yourself that you cross that POC stage and you are for real, that's when you should start looking out for external money.
Wow, interesting. So you've been in the financial space for a very long time and you obviously are a master of the ecosystem. What is that one thing which is amazing about this world and the one thing that you absolutely don't like?
World being financial services.
The financial services world, yeah.
So one is, that's true for other industries also, but this is a very closely knit industry in the sense
so
that
that's a good part.
Absolutely a good part. Good part if you are doing well, meaning if you're servicing a customer well, your product is doing well and you are able to demonstrate that you add significant value, then when you go and talk to another prospect, it becomes very easy for you.
Right.
Because
referral works here.
Referral works, plus in this industry, people keep moving. Like somebody from bank A moves to bank B to bank C, bank D, all that kind of stuff. So which means that if he was a satisfied customer in bank A, when he moves to bank B or bank C, he himself will call us saying, why don't you work with us, right? So those are all positive things that if you're doing well, if you have added enough value to the customer, then very likely that just a referral will help you. Your cost of sales goes down because they themselves reach out to you, right? The negative of that is the pricing pressure and associated thing. He'll say, I used to pay you only so much there. Now, can you please do this kind of thing?
Right.
And then, so there is nothing like confidentiality anymore.
So everybody knows everything that's happening.
Exactly. So which means, I mean, in a way, it's good also because you have to be absolutely above board. You cannot do things under the table or whatever it is here, right? So everything has to be above board, and as long as you're open and you're clear about this, how I work with this customer, and the reason I'm working with you, this is because of this. That's it.
Okay, and 2 qualities of entrepreneur which is absolutely needed. The 2 quality, or I can say key traits. What will that be?
So one is integrity / value system. I mean, absolutely. I don't think if you are not crossing that filter, it's not even worth doing anything. Because the reason people join you, people invest in you, customers work with you, is all with certain assumptions. And if you are going to betray that trust and value system, I don't think it's worth doing it. You are doing injustice to everyone who trusted you. So I think more than anything else, more than capability, more than anything else, that is something that cannot be compromised.
Okay.
Second is resilience, failure. I mean, it is way of life. As I said, every day, I mean, I may be smiling and talking to you, but there may be 10 mails that will be calling me, you are the scum of the earth, right? From a customer. But maybe the next mail will say, you are the God's gift to humankind, some other customer.
Yeah, but how do you balance this mindset? Because nowadays, people, I don't think the generation now has a patience to take in the criticisms that comes their way very, very frequently. So how do you balance it? Like, how do you do it?
No, I won't generalize it. There are obviously enough young kids that do it maybe better than me also. But one could be the age also. With age comes the maturity or so, I hope. Because one question I always ask is, what is the worst that can happen? I mean, if I get this mail that says that you really screwed up, right? What is the worst that can happen? Okay, the customer can walk away. But as long as I have delivered to my best, as long as I have done, this is the best that I could do, there are certain things that have beyond my control or whatever it is, which I cannot repair. Yes, I'll offer to repair it. But if even after that, what is the worst? He'll walk away. That's fine. Move on, right? It's not the end of the world. And you have better things to do.
Right. So in the journey that you've had, if you have to point out one biggest challenge that you've faced and you were like, I don't think I can cross this, but you ultimately did. What was that point?
And as I said, this flipping to a B2B from a B2C.
Okay.
There is a big leap of faith. It's not like anyone has done it. So if you take the whole SaaS space, B2B space in India, Perfios is the largest company today.
Yeah.
When I started this company, a lot of my well-wishers, very, very good friends, most of them said, you're wasting your time doing this in India. Nobody, large enterprises will pay money in India. You're a very cost-conscious economy. People are not going to pay. Why are you wasting your time? You go to US and do this business, right? They're all good friends, well-wishers. Today, I can go back to them and say, you're closer to 100 million ARR, highly profitable, all based in India. We're the largest SaaS Fintech in India.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. And how does it feel, Govi, like coming all the way here and now again taking your company to the next level that you are taking? What is the best feeling, or how do you feel when you wake up every morning and say, yes, I've done it?
See, more than anything else, I mean, all these numbers and all are good for my investors. But more than anything else, what is the most satisfying is, as I said, the initial set of people that were with me, who had the trust, who were doing all of this without knowing whether anything will happen or not, and the set of employees that followed the entire team. We have one of the most liberal ESOP policies in the country.
Okay.
Practically everyone in the company gets the ESOP, and fortunately, as the company has done well, every employee has done well as part of that. And as you know, in this industry, most of us come from a typical middle-class family. And the ESOP kind of thing is the biggest wealth creation for most of us. And very, very satisfied to say that we are able to change the life of so many people who had the trust in us and who joined us and who continue to work with Perfios. And that is one great satisfying feeling, more than all these numbers and customers and all that.
Wow, that's very nice to know. On that note, I think there was one question in my mind. Everybody says, or people have the belief, whether they say customer first or employee first. What is your belief? Customer first or employee first?
So obviously, employees. I feel this is my personal
Yeah.
opinion, because if the team is not there, as I said, if my initial team was not with me and helped me build all of this, there is no Perfios, right? And we continue to service a customer only because of what the team is doing, right? So unless that team is taken care of well, I cannot service the customer. So obviously, customer is a very, very key component. Investor is a key component. Team employees are key component. But without employees starting and contributing, I don't have an investor or I don't have a customer.
So employee first.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. The fintech ecosystem, or financial ecosystem rather, I call it, has grown multiple folds in the past 10 years. What has been that one or maybe two growth points where you see ki, this has actually transformed India in a much bigger way? And what do you see coming in the coming years?
So obviously, UPI is one such moment. Account aggregator hopefully will be that next moment.
If you can explain account aggregation.
Okay. Yeah. UPI everyone knows.
Yes.
So if you take the account aggregator, what is happening in the whole credit or insurance space before account aggregator was rolled out by RBI? Companies like Perfios, or maybe Perfios only, there was no other company in India. So we had our own proprietary framework. That was the platform I was referring to, whereby we were collecting data from diverse data sources in any form, structured, unstructured, printed, all that form, and then extracting data, curating it, analyzing it for very specific purposes. Initially, it was personal finance, then it was moving to lending, right? But that was all done in a proprietary way. We built our own proprietary platform. Whereas what the banks and NBFCs said at that time, and the regulator also, if you can kind of regulate the account aggregation business, instead of a company like Perfios doing it in their own proprietary way, this will make the data aggregation much easier. So all the people, instead of like depending on one unknown small company in their proprietary way and then having the doubt whether that data is safe and all that stuff, instead of that, if we can regulate that business and provide something called as an account aggregator framework, then it makes the job of getting this data easy. Just to give an example, suppose you are applying for a loan. The lender will ask, give me the last 6 months bank statement, or give me some, if you are a SME lender, borrower, they'll ask for a GST data or ITR data or whatever. The way it was done before account aggregator was, or before Perfios was there, was you have to take a printed copy and then give it to the banker. Even today, a lot of people do that, right? So that is very, very painful, right? What Perfios did was it developed its own platform wherein online you can pull all this data with the consent of the user. But that consent was all proprietary, specific to Perfios. Whereas what account aggregator did was, account aggregator said if you're applying for a loan, you just give something called as a consent. You go to the account aggregator thing, say, I give a consent for this lender to get my primary bank statement from this bank. That's all. You just say checkbox. And then automatically it happens wherein I get 6 months or 12 months of your data and then push it to the lender through this account aggregator framework. They do all this analysis and then their loan is given or whatever it is. So that account aggregator makes this whole data movement very, very simple, reliable, with no paper work going back and forth and all of that stuff. So we are seeing month on month significant growth there. And the hope is any kind of a data sharing in this country, not just financial services, with the DPDP bill, which is applicable to every industry. With that, whether it is healthcare, e-commerce, ONDC kind of a framework, all of that stuff, any kind of a data sharing, hopefully will follow this account aggregator framework only. So which means now this whole paperless digital kind of a thing can happen for any kind of a services, not just financial services. So let's say tomorrow you walk into a doctor's office, right? You don't need to carry this entire file of all your past cases. You can just say, I give a consent to share all my health records from these 5 different hospitals and everything will be available to that doctor, right? Wow. So that kind of a thing is what is possible with an account aggregator framework, and hopefully that can be the next big growth. And then for a bigger thing, there are 2-3 areas that are very interesting here. One is this whole fraud. I mean, unfortunately, with the digital, what has happened is while there are a lot of good things that are happening, unfortunately, the velocity of frauds also have increased. If the digital, right? So if somebody finds there is a loophole in the system, immediately that gets replicated across the country or across the world. and the entire thing happens, right?
It
is a
happens
new
so fast.
Yes. And unfortunately, most of the people who are affected are on the bottom of the pyramid, the lower part of the segment, because financial literacy is not there. They easily get fall into some of these phishing links or areas, other links. So one of the very interesting area is this whole fraud analytics, fraud management. How do we kind of ensure that this fraud is minimized? Obviously, we cannot eradicate it completely. This will always be there. But how can we minimize this so that there is a big societal impact also? Because we are kind of ensuring that the weaker section of the society is protected. They don't fall prey to all of this. That's a very interesting area to get into. It's both technology as well as a combination of financial literacy being done, as well as the societal impact. And of course, the business interest will also be there. The other area that's very interesting is, especially the DPTV and all of that coming in, every single company will become some kind of a financial services company.
Or how is that?
What will happen is they have so much of data, so many customers, right? Could be a taxi company, could be a food business company, whatever it is, right? Food delivery company. So they have huge amount of data, huge number of customers. So how can I leverage them for monetizing them? Can I provide a loan to them? Can I sell insurance to them?
Is this embedded finance?
Exactly, it's embedded finance, right? So people have been attempting it, but this can be a very, very large space because every company would like to leverage their assets, which is their customer and data, of course, in a responsible way. So that can be another very, very interesting thing. The third area is, especially with the emergence of all this AI and ML and Gen AI and all of, and processing power, is that it's possible. I mean, this is how we started out the personal finance. So there is a potential to do a personal financial planning, portfolio management, investment, wellness for a segment of one. So instead of saying, this is the investment product, take it or leave it. This is the interest. I can say, I know you are a digital persona. This is the kind of person you are. For you, this is the right kind of product at this price. Please take it. And this is the planning for you for the next whatever. So it is possible to do a personal finance planning / investment / everything for a segment of one.
Got it. Okay.
So there are multiple opportunities that are there. So if I'm much younger and an entrepreneur, there are tons of things to be done.
Right. You did mention AI, a very interesting topic to talk about now. I'll be very blunt here. Do you really think AI will replace jobs?
Okay. Say obviously it won't replace that. It will minimize in existing ways. Whatever we are saying, because of the productivity improvement, if you require 100 people to do certain things, maybe with 50 or 40, you can do it. But what it will do, like we have seen in other cases also, there will be newer class of jobs generated.
Okay, like example, if you've seen...
So say, for example, if you take this whole data science related thing, right? You need a lot of, whether all the way from a prompt engineering to somebody who can write basic stuff to all the way up to a data science kind of a player. There'll be new set of jobs created. Previously, what used to happen, even 3-4 years back, every company had a very small elite team called data science. Today, data science is like spread across the entire organization. There are companies where everything is done by AI. For example, in Perfios, we are saying in the next 6 to 9 months, it will be more like a Perfios.ai. Where every function, all the way from a sales, marketing to development, engineering, will all be AI enabled, where everyone is an AI engineer. Yes, they may be using it as an end user, but there will be a data science person also. So what will happen is there will be enough reskilling that will happen that will kind of replace some of these jobs that are lost. Having said that, yes, if there are people who cannot be reskilled or people who don't have the attitude to get reskilled, then that's a problem.
Okay, so if you have the willingness to learn and outgrow yourself, adapt to the new world, then you don't have...
And you may not have a choice.
That's absolutely, true. Okay, so if you're hiring someone in today's age and era, with the advent of AI and all the new tech that has come in, the digital infrastructure that's been created, what are the 3 qualities that you look for in any individual? Of course, you mentioned one is ethics, that is basically for an entrepreneur, may also be for an employee, but the skills that you would want in an employee.
See, even before all this AI and all that stuff, whenever we were recruiting, I was always insisting on capability more than skill. So skill is something that you can easily pick up. By skill, what I mean is whether you have Python, Java, AI, data science, whatever it is, right? That is something that you can pick up. But capability, what is a kind of aptitude? What is a kind of willingness to learn? Are you able to pick up something new? Because whatever you come to the table with today, very likely in 1 year it will become obsolete.
Correct.
Or we may move to a completely different technology stack.
Yeah.
Or completely different kind of way of doing business, right? Now, at that time, will you have the capability to kind of repurpose yourself? Just like I said, as an entrepreneur, I need to have the agility to kind of flip and do repurposing and all that. Every individual should have that, especially in this fast-paced thing where technology gets changed so much, right? By that, I don't mean just for development engineers, even somebody in a marketing, somebody in a sales. The way you are going to sell is going to be very different. It's not like I take a PowerPoint, a tariff card and say, this is what you take it or leave it kind of thing, right? It's a consultative selling. You go and pitch your ideas. You go and say, this is why you need to work with me or things like that, right? So do you have that in you? And that's what we will look for rather than saying, can you write all the syntax of Java properly, all the syntax of Python properly, and things like that. That doesn't really make sense because that may become obsolete in no time.
Okay. But also, Govi, when the organization increases in number of people, right, there's a challenge on the innovation part. Like people get too used to doing things the way things have been working. So how do you break that and bring in innovation and also inspire people in the company? Yeah, you are going to take the next leap and you're going to do it with us.
Actually, it's a very, very interesting point. There is something very close to my heart.
Okay.
I keep talking about it in all my forums where there is this notion of innovator's dilemma. There is a famous book by a Harvard professor, he's no more. So where he talks about a company can fail because of its success. Meaning if you don't innovate and you just kind of coast on your past laurels and say, I have enough customers, they are giving me enough revenue by just servicing them. If you continue on that path, what will happen in a couple of years, the very same customers will come back and say, there is a upcoming startup that is doing far better than you. So I'll start working with that person, with that company.
Right.
So you lose that customer. So unless you continue to innovate and you are also always seen as a thought leader and a category creator by your existing customers, you risk losing that same customer because you are not putting enough innovation. So that is the innovator's dilemma. How do you balance servicing your existing customer and investing enough for your new innovation?
Correct.
Because that balance has to be maintained. If you go more towards services saying, I'll just get easy money from your existing customer, after 2-3 years, the very same customers will throw you out. At the same time, it's not like 90% of the time you are focusing only on new product because you have to service your customers. They are equally important, right? So that is that dilemma that one has to somehow manage. But for a technology company like Perfios, it's very, very clear unless we continue to innovate, every 2-3 years have a new growth engine, new set of products, we cannot survive. It's absolutely important. Innovation is the key to our, not just growth, survival.
Oh, okay. But how do you introduce it in the company? Like,
okay.
What steps?
Obviously, it is not easy. There are multiple things we do as an organization. We have something called as an idea fest internally. Here this is the equivalent of what Google used to call 20%. A lot of companies have this, where entrepreneurship kind of a thing, right. Where we say, you come out with an idea, we give you enough time, you go and build it, and then not only build it, if it is successful and we are able to roll it out, then we even reward you significantly for that new product that is getting out into the market.
Right.
So one, it gives a professional satisfaction for the individual, and two, there is an upside also monetarily that is coming for that person. And for the organization, hopefully that will create a culture of innovation in the organization, because this is taken from the grassroots. People submit ideas and then that is evaluated, they present POCs, all that stuff. So that is one thing. And then internally, there are enough forums like technology forums and all, where we say we are a technology company and we need to be always at the forefront of technology. So can you come out with ideas? So obviously it's not easy. It's not, as I said in some other context earlier, how do you come out with an idea that is going to work? Because there is no foolproof method.
Okay, so just pivoting a little bit here, say if I take you back in a time machine 30 years from now, 30 years backwards from now, in the same scenario that we have today, the kind of ecosystem that we have today in the same scenario, what would be like a couple of business idea that comes to you and you would like to, nurture that and work on it?
So as I mentioned already,
apart from that,
fraud is one area that I would definitely like to work. Then the whole embedded finance is an excellent area. And same thing with PFM, that's closer to my heart. So definitely these three are more than enough for me. If I drill down into each one of them, that itself can give me some 5-6 ideas each. And each one is like huge opportunity and interesting technology/business problems. And global. It's not just specific to India or something. These are all global problems.
Okay. So Govi, you've scaled companies, right? And while scaling companies, you have faced investors. How does that journey go? Like, what are the difficulties do you face? And what is that one thing or couple of things that people need to take care of when they're actually going to an investor for the first time to make a pitch?
See, actually, when people say that, how do you manage the board? How do you deal with investors and all that? I'm very surprised by it. Because for me, the investors, fortunately in my earlier company as well as here, they've been more of sounding board to me. We have
Like advisors.
Okay. Who are always available to me. Never faced a situation where they questioned me or they always went with our decision. It's not like they said you have to do this, you cannot do what you are doing and all that stuff. And I think the primary reason for that is governance. From day zero of our existence, both in my earlier company and here, what we did was everything was set like it was an established company. The systems, the process, the kind of, like I mentioned earlier, that we were very, very frugal. We did not spend money, right? We did not take salary. The earlier employees took serious pay cut. We were hardly spent any money in the first 7-8 years. So with all of that and the books, very, very clean, the value system that I talked about, integrity, non-compromising, all that. When I went to the first investor and they looked at our books, they said, we cannot believe this is such a small company having this kind of governance and books. We had a board meeting like as if we were a public company.
Wow.
From day one,
okay.
Right? So everything was above board. And when the investor, the prospective investors came and saw the kind of books that we maintain, and in all our rounds of funding, I can proudly say that they found practically zero non-compliance in any of this, whether it is in legal agreements or financial statements, all of that kind of stuff. And that is possible not because we were, just before they came, we cleaned up the book. That would not have been possible. We work with literally 1,000 customers plus kind of a thing, right? So that is possible only because everyone in the organization follows the same governance and same kind of value system. Because they go and talk to people on the ground, they talk to me, CXOs, and all of us give the same answer. So it is very easy to give the same answer when you speak the truth.
Right, actually.
When you have to kind of massage it, that's when a lot of different versions you get to hear, right? So I would say the investor relationship has been fantastic for us, largely because of the governance, the trust they have in us, and they know that we are not going to do something stupid, like siphoning the money or whatever it is. And to a large extent, we have also been reasonably successful business-wise in terms of meeting numbers and delivering value to our investors. But more importantly, I would say this trust factor and the governance aspect, which kind of gives them the confidence that they can trust the management. And to be very specific, I'll tell you, around the COVID time, when a lot of companies are lay off and all that, we are also going through that phase when our revenues suddenly dropped from March to April of 20. Like it was a 90% drop in our revenue.
When the COVID began.
Yeah, shutdown happened. And there was no business. So it was a drop of 90% in our revenue. But I had built a company at that time, the AOP plan was for 100% year-on-year growth because we were doing very well. Nobody obviously anticipated that. So the cost structure was 100% higher, but the revenue was only 10% of what I had planned. And a lot of companies were laying off and all that stuff.
Correct.
And the investors said, it's your call, what you want to do. So basically, we took the call saying that this is a product company and we have invested in people because they can kind of come and build great products. It is not a services company where I can do a hire and fire kind of a thing. So I don't want to let go people. Let's give it a shot for at least 6 months. If things don't improve by that time, let's take a call at that time. And I have to be very thankful to the investors. They trusted in us. They allowed us to do that. Otherwise, they could have taken a call saying, no,
actually,
you are bleeding and you need to let go people. They did not say that. And I think large part of that is they have the trust in the management. And fortunately, things turned around in 6 months and we grew very, very rapidly. So I've never had issues with the investors.
Okay. But as you keep scaling up, how do you maintain these processes, policies and everything? And till the last, leg, how is that possible?
Actually, that's a very interesting question, right? I keep telling people, there are two things that keep me awake in the night. Not literally, but one is data. We handle some of the most sensitive data in the industry. And while we have done everything possible technology-wise to preserve the data, we go through orders, all of that stuff happens. Always scared of, we are only one leak away from a disaster.
Exactly, yeah. Right? It's very sensitive.
So that is something that kind of bothers me. Again, we have no control over it, so no point in continuing to bother about it, but it is something that we always keep an eye on. But the second most important thing related to the question you had was, as we scale up, so it's great to say that I have this value system, I have this culture, I do this, I do that, all that. But as we scale up, we get people from outside, from different organizations, from different set of value systems. I mean, nothing is right or wrong. They may come with a value system that is appropriate for the organization that they were in. May not be correct here, right? So how do we ensure that we continue to have the same value system that has brought this company to this stage that can be followed by them also?
Correct, yeah.
So that value dilution, if it happens, for example, frugality. So we are used to frugality. But someone might come from a very large corporate where there is a entitlement. People above this have to go in a business class. People above this should stay in a 5-star. I mean, nothing right or wrong in that. But I'm saying if that entitlement kind of a culture comes here, I feel those are things I'm very scared of. Because it will dilute the value system of the company, and that's not Perfios.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sense that at Perfios. I think it's a very flat organization. You can always walk up to anyone, share your ideas, and that we can feel, all of that you have built, and the roots are still strong, I believe. Right. So, okay, but be very honest with me here. What do you think about the Gen Zs of the world? And everybody says, like, at least in the people who work with me, the peers, right? They say it's very difficult to manage them. What is your thought? Very raw.
See, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't work directly with them today. There are layers of people, but I do talk to them, obviously. Yeah. My kids are also there. So what I feel is that earlier notion of an employer-employee relationship, the loyalty and the long-standing relationship, all that has to be recalibrated because of the kind of opportunities available to people, but not just Gen Z, everyone, right? Kind of opportunities available, it's unfair to expect them to be with you for life. So as long as they deliver the current work, the current assignment, what they have signed up for, and don't leave in the middle, I think that's what one should recalibrate your expectation also. You cannot, sure, if you plan saying that next 2 years is what I want you to do and they also sign up for that, let them better deliver it. They should not leave halfway. I mean, that's unfair, irrespective whether they are Gen Z or whatever, right? My age group, whatever. But expecting somebody who joins the organization should not leave the organization is absolutely unfair. And we should reset the calibration. In fact, I tell our HR folks also, whenever someone leaves the organization, treat them extra special. Because I want anyone who is leaving the organization to be my ambassador. When they go out, I want them to talk good about Perfios. They can be my ambassador. They'll be a stronger ambassador than somebody sitting inside Perfios and talking good about the company. So make sure that whoever is leaving in a good way.
Wow.
And feel good about the company.
Very nice thought.
So that is something that we should all recalibrate our expectation. People will be here for some time, but as long as they're productive, they follow all the value system here and then move on, that's absolutely fine.
So Govi, India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, right? What apart from the fintech world really excites you and you like this particular industry or this particular segment is going to be a big boom? What is it? Health. Okay.
Health is huge. Unfortunately, I would say, we were not doing that well in that space. I mean, if you look, just like what people were talking about financial inclusion and how the bottom of the pyramid, the rural areas were not covered, and a lot of initiatives have been done to bring more and more people.
So this is health tech that you're talking about? Or?
Yeah. And obviously, I'm talking of a technology, but I'm saying health as an overall thing.
Right.
You still have large sections. I mean, the Ayushman Bharat kind of a thing. They're all great initiatives in that because that is the equivalent of the financial inclusion you were talking of in the financial world, right? So they are trying to bring more and more people who are underserved to come into this formal fold of whether it is health insurance or whether hospital systems, all of that thing, so that we have a more healthier country, healthier population, right? Now, along with that comes huge opportunity for health tech. Whether it is in terms of working, I mean, like what Perfios does in health insurance with all the insurance players, both India and global, or the whole hospital systems, kind of using GenAI, we have been building a lot of use cases there that can help patients, hospitals. So there are tons of opportunities there. And the amount of data that is generated, whether it is with the Fitbit equivalent wearable devices, as well as the hospital system getting more and more digital. So essentially what fintech or financial services went through in 2010 onwards is what the hospital systems, health insurance, all of that is going through now. With the impetus from the government through health machine and the Ayushman Bharat and all of those things. So as a result, there are huge opportunities that are available in that space. And that again has a positive societal impact. It is not just for business.
Yeah.
It can have a significant impact in the country also, which will indirectly help in the overall GDP growth and all of that stuff.
Okay. Now, one question in my mind, and I think most of the people whom I speak to who are not from the industry and do not know Perfios, they find it very difficult to understand what we do. So if you have to explain what Perfios is in like 30 seconds to someone who's very young, right? How would you do it?
So again, it depends on if he's a technical person, I will use a different...
Non-technical, just in the outside world, looking at it from an outsider perspective.
Okay. Yeah. So in that case, I would break it into two different things.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I would have just said, aggregate data and do real-time analysis. Right? That will be lost on them.
Exactly.
Right? So as a result, for this person, I will say if he's more closer to financial services, then I'll say I'll help you do real-time credit decisioning so that your loans are done in 1 minute or less.
Okay, so that is Perfios.
For somebody in a financial service. Whereas if he's a health claim kind of a thing,
right,
I'll say your claims can be processed in real time so that you don't need to wait in the hospital for 6 hours, 8 hours.
And what will it be for a mass audience who have no idea of the financial? Because I have friends who are in designing, who are architects. They have no idea what's happening in the financial world, right?
So loan, I am assuming all of them will know.
Of course, loan they do.
So Perfios is an enabler for getting your loans without any pain in real time, in less than a minute, 2 minutes.
Okay, interesting. All right. So again, Govi, coming back to the question, like you have built Perfios to the level where it is, right? Now, what is your vision for Perfios in the next 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years? What do you see?
So as I mentioned, the vision statement still remains the same.
Yes.
We have to be a technology-driven product company in chosen domains and chosen geographies and a category creator in each one of this. We don't want to get into business because there is money to be made there. We want to get into business because, one, it is very interesting. It can make a difference, and we will be the category creator.
Got it.
So each one of this, I want to be globally there in chosen geographies. It's not like, that's why we are not in the US market. US market is the largest, but you don't want to be there because it is not a chosen geography for us at this point in time. Yeah, we may get in there 2 years, 3 years down the road, but at this point in time, we feel the geographies we are operating in is fertile enough. We can grow very, very fast there, and there is no point in looking at other geographies. That's why I said, just because there is money, we don't want to go. It has to be chosen geographies and chosen domains. We started with personal finance, moved to lending, moved to insurance, moving to health now, maybe with ONDC, some e-commerce stuff. So this will be very specific, like chosen areas that we will get into. But each one of this, we want to be seen as a thought leader. We want to be a category creator. And you want to be driven by technology. And it will be product offering. It won't be services.
Okay. So Govi, if I have to, touch on a little bit of a personal side to you, right? What are the things that interest you the most? What are your hobbies? What do you love doing apart from being a, tech leader per se?
Multiple things. Considering my age, obviously, a lot of things. Used to be a big cricket fan. I used to be an umpire.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
When I was young and I had more hair on my head. But I gave it up a long time back. But I used to officiate in some of the local league matches and all, but a long time back.
Okay. But so, cricket does interest you?
Yeah, but I don't watch it that... I do watch some of the more, maybe it reflects my age, more pure test matches I watch.
That is interesting.
That's one. Then I read lots and lots of books. All kinds of books. It's not just management. In fact, I don't read most of the management books.
You don't read management
books? Not most of the management books. Okay. But I read all kinds of books. Yeah. Any kind of book. That kind of... so I pick up a book, maybe 2 days, 3 days, I finish it and then move on to the next. I read a lot of books.
Okay.
And not just technology or management. It is... In fact, I take pride in saying I have never attended a business course. Okay. Wow. And then, as you can imagine, reasonably spiritual. I come from a family of Sanskrit scholars. And so I've been practicing Vedas and all that stuff for the last 20 plus years. I learn, recite, all of that stuff. So I spent...
That helped, Govi, because now I see more of people actually again going back to their roots, trying to learn, our culture, which was so rich, and trying to revive it. So does it help when you're working in a setup like this?
So it is very personal, but my personal experiences definitely gives me a balance. Like earlier question you asked me, I would have given that answer, but now I can say that what is helping me weather all this ups and downs is definitely some of those, because it calms my mind. And when I read every time I read a Bhagavad Gita, it's like it gives me a different perspective. So there are enough things there that I can apply to here. So what is the worst? As I said, what is the worst that can happen, right? Or do your duty. I mean, which is what I said for that question also. As long as I'm convinced that I've done my best, what comes out of it is something I have no control over.
Right. So cricket, books, anything else that...
Spiritual stuff takes, I spend definitely. Okay. And then with my kids, both my kids are, one is in the same space as LLMs and all that. She is in the US. My son is in material science. He's doing a PhD in Georgia Tech. So I talk to them and they kind of give a lot of dump. They think I don't do any work. So.
Okay. Do you believe having a hobby that you can pursue alongside the job that you do is important? Or
absolutely, 200%.
Yeah? Okay.
Absolutely important, because otherwise, this can get to you. Because many times you want to move away from this.
Right.
Because, see, your productivity goes down if you are constantly on this. Somewhere yesterday I read somebody saying, I forget the lady who said that.
Right.
You don't want to be 100% of the time all 5 days because you're not going to be productive, right? I completely agree with that. You need to take some time off and do something. And it cannot be some random stuff. It has to be some focused hobby where you enjoy doing it, whether it is gardening, cooking, whatever it is.
Okay. And who in the world actually inspires you? Couple of people?
I cannot say any specific person.
No one? Okay. Which is the best book that you've read so far?
I continue to read Innovator's Dilemma every year.
Wow, okay.
Every time it gives me a different perspective. Other than Bhagavad Gita, things like that. Because every time it kind of makes me come to the ground saying, unless you innovate, you are going to die. And every chapter, every case study has given is very, very helpful to me.
Okay. And the first time entrepreneurs, right? You have spoken about the start. You said bootstrapping until you reach a point. And then you also spoke about how to deal with investors and the kind of value system that you need to build for your company. What is it that makes a successful entrepreneur apart from these things? Is it building a great product? Or do you think even if your product is not that great, your marketing should be amazing? Is that the thought process you have, or you think the product should be amazing?
See, personally, my belief is the success itself is relative. And how you measure success is also different. For me, success is more like, is my team loving me? Is my team going to say good things about me after they leave the company or after I leave the company? That I would call a more success rather than, I made so much money this year versus last year or compared to the competition. I think those are all transient. Because when we started Perfios, why do these people join me? But they knew that there was no money, no funding. They did not know whether this will succeed or not. It is largely because they trusted.
Correct.
Right? That I consider as a higher form of success than did I make enough money in my last company or how did I do? So that is relative. And for me, that is a yardstick rather than absolute money or profitability.
Okay. Any quote that you, if it is at the top of your mind and you say, this is something that I always look up to and say, this inspires. Any famous quote that you have in mind?
So one is the freemium model I keep quoting to people, whatever I say when I was going through that, because I learned it the hard way. And then from a technology thing, not too many people will know about it, but there is this famous computer scientist called Donald Knuth. Whoever is a CS student, ideally they should know his name. They don't know his name, I won't recruit him. So
mine noted.
There is a 3-volume book he has written, Art of Computer Programming, phenomenal books. So he keeps talking about, there is one famous quote called, premature optimization is the root cause of all evil. Meaning, when you're building something, right? So you have to iterate and do quick iterations and ensure that you get enough feedback. Instead of trying to do it in your lab and then optimize it forever, saying that this is the best product, or whatever maybe the dimensions you are looking at. for scale or for performance or for security. I mean, no point in doing it as a premature optimization. But without a customer, why are you even optimizing?
Correct.
So the premature optimization is the root cause of all evil. He keeps talking about it. Okay? So in the technology context, I keep telling people many times when they kind of in our meetings, sometimes there will be this discussion which is meaningless discussion on how should I do this, how do I do that. I said, you don't even have a customer. Why are you wasting your time of 20 people sitting in this room? Let's roll it out, get some feedback, and then go and fix this.
And one biggest mistake you've seen people make, apart from you, like I'm not talking about your experience, but in the other entrepreneurs that you've met, one thing that you think they should not do this.
Not entrepreneur, the company I was working for, my earlier company in the US, a company called Digital Equipment Corporation, very, very large company. They had displaced IBM at the peak in the mid-range computers. Their set of computers called VAX. They were leaders. I mean, they were considered the first successful startup. From MIT, Ken Olsen came, and then with $50,000, he started a company, became very, very large, right? Mid-80s, I was working there. He said, PCs have no market.
PCs have no market. Wow.
And then he continued investing in this mid-range computers called VAX.
Okay.
And in 5 years, DEC went out of business. 5 years. They were at the top.
Yeah.
5 years, Microsoft took over.
Oh, okay.
We saw that every day kind of dying.
Wow. Okay. So the biggest lesson is innovate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't rest on your laurels. He was saying my mid-range computers will take me places.
Okay. So I think we're good here. Any last thoughts that you want to leave with the new budding entrepreneurs? And what is it that you think will inspire them from you?
I don't know whether it will inspire them, but the reality is this will be a marathon. It is not a sprint. Unfortunately, some of the pink papers glorify only the success.
Yeah.
Right? And that too short-term, very quick success kind of a thing. Like start something, 2 years, make millions or whatever it is, right? I don't know how true they are, but even then that's going to be very, very rare. So it is going to be a marathon where you have to go through multiple iterations and then flipping and all of that. And even at the end of it, maybe you won't succeed. But the marathon is worth the journey. It'll definitely, because the skills that you acquire out of that, be phenomenally valuable wherever you go. Whether it is for your next venture or you go back to corporate, wherever you go, the skills, whether it's life skills, technology skills, business skills, everything will be absolutely relevant because it is compress the learning in such a short time frame that you will never get out of any other organization.
Govi, while hiring, if somebody has an entrepreneurial background, has built a business, probably not succeeded and wants to get back into the job, would you prefer that person or would you prefer a lateral hire who's had a work experience?
No, I would prefer that person with a clear conversation saying, will you leave immediately? Because very rarely these people will stick on.
The entrepreneurs?
Entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Because entrepreneur mindset will be like, the next opportunity I'll go and start something, which is the right thing to do if they have the financial security. So I will have that frank discussion with that person saying, what is your time frame? When are you planning to go and start? If he gives me a commitment, at least a 2-year time frame, as I said in some other context,
right.
I'm not expecting a lifetime commitment.
Correct.
A 2-year or a 3-year commitment. And as long as he's willing to live that commitment, I would prefer someone like that than a routine kind of a career.
Pretty awesome. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I think your value trickles down to us even today because when we listen about the way you build this company, we always say, wow, that is inspiring to at least us. So thank you for sharing this with the larger audience. And it was a pleasure talking to you, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Govi, everybody that I was working with was interested to know what kind of music do you listen to?
So to be politically correct and harmony at home, my wife is a Carnatic music singer, so I listen to a lot of Carnatic music.
Okay.
And she listens to every possible genre. So I also listen to that.
Any other classic that is your favorite? Like any other type apart from Carnatic?
No, other than Carnatic, largely I listen to a lot of Tamil film music. Raja and AR Rahman. Largely that. So in my car, whenever I go on rides, it will be largely that. Early morning, it will be the typical MS Subbulakshmi, that kind of genre in the morning.
Yeah.
And then as the day progresses, it will be more of the Tamil music or film music.
Okay. And 3 or 4 book recommendations that you would give the generation today to absolutely not miss out on reading?
So one is I mentioned, this whole innovator's dilemma is something I really like, because that kind of pushes me to continue to innovate, focus on innovation, and what happens if you don't innovate.
Okay.
And I think everyone should read that. The second book is it's a reasonably heavy book, a novella called Daniel Kahneman, The Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. It's a beautiful book. And again, it takes time to read, but the moment you read it, you will read it multiple times. That's a phenomenal book that kind of puts a lot of things, life in perspective. He's a psychologist, but I got a Nobel Prize for that in the bio space. And so that's a phenomenal book. I keep reading it multiple times, but a heavy book, not a light reading. Then, of course, the other one, as I mentioned, I keep reading Bhagavad Gita. Every time I read, I get a different perspective.
Okay. And if we go back to day 1 of building Perfios, what would you do differently? Like that would change what Perfios looks like today?
See, honestly speaking, I don't think I will do anything different, because we wanted to do something that is not existing.
Yeah.
Right? So whenever you attempt to do, whether it was 20 years back or today, if I want to do something that is not existing and I want to roll it out into the market, there is no guarantee whether it will work or not. So even today, if let's say I create a widget that does not exist, that is not a pain point for anyone, but I try to push into the market, it's a binary decision. It may work, it may not work. Same thing happened at that time. Fortunately, we were able to flip and get to an area where it worked. Now also it will be the same thing. As I said, I don't want to get into space because it is profitable or there is money to be made. I want to be in a space where I can create something new. So today also I'll do the same thing. I'll create something new, which means the probability of success is very low.
Got it. My next question is, do you really take vacations? And if you do, which is your favorite place to travel?
Unfortunately, again, at home, I get accused of not taking 2 year vacation. But because both my kids are in the US, I keep traveling more on a personal visit. And I used to live in the US, so to a large extent, I've gone most of the places. So nowadays, it's largely family time.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a vacation time.
But do you enjoy occasional visits to some certain places in India which you absolutely love? Which could that be?
Largely, it is, again, as you can imagine, spiritual.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of temple tourism. All the way from Nepal, Muktinath to Kanyakumari, I've gone to practically all the places.
Wow.
Every place.
That's interesting. Wow.
It's largely temple tourism.
Nice. So thank you again for that, Govi. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.